Welcome to Miss Scarlett, the place to be feminine. Subscribe and enjoy. Michael sat on the edge of his bed, staring blankly at the wall. The ticking of the clock echoed through his sparsely furnished studio apartment. At 35, he felt like his life was on autopilot. Wake up, go to work at the accounting firm, hit the gym, watch sports, repeat. He sighed and stood up, surveying the cluttered room. Empty beer bottles and pizza boxes littered the coffee table. A layer of dust coated the bookshelf filled with business books he'd never read.
Is this all there is?
He thought. Michael started gathering up the trash, shoving it into a garbage bag. As he cleaned, he unearthed a cardboard box shoved in the back of his closet. Puzzled, he pulled it out and opened the flaps. Inside lay a pile of colorful fabrics, dresses, skirts, blouses. Alicia's clothes from when they'd dated 2 years ago. She must have forgotten them when she moved out. He pulled out a green sundress with tiny white flowers. The silky fabric slipped through his fingers. Michael glanced at the door, double-checking it was locked. Then, slowly, hesitantly, he held the dress up to his body. His heart raced as he slipped off his jeans and t-shirt. He unzipped the dress and stepped into it, pulling it up over his lean frame. The fabric kissed his skin, sensuous and light. He reached behind to zip it up. Michael turned to face the full-length mirror on his bedroom door. A different person stared back. Feminine, vulnerable, free. The dress hugged his narrow waist and flared out at the hips. He ran his hands down the skirt, surprised at how right it felt. For the first time in years, the knot of anxiety in his chest loosened. Tears pricked the corners of his eyes. He felt a glimmer of something he couldn't quite name. Joy, peace, rightness. The moment shattered at the sound of his phone buzzing. He lunged for it, terrified someone had discovered his secret. But it was just a text from his buddy, Mark. Poker night at my place. 8 p.m. Bring beer. Michael quickly unzipped the dress and stuffed it back in the box. He threw on his normal clothes. Jeans, a plain tee, sneakers. His manly uniform. The joy drained away, replaced by shame and embarrassment. What was wrong with him? Why did wearing a dress feel so good? He was a man. He shouldn't want this. He almost texted Mark back. Sorry, can't make it. But he knew skipping poker would just lead to awkward questions. Questions he couldn't answer. So he grabbed a six-pack from the fridge, locked away the forbidden box of clothing, and headed out. Just one of the boys again, the mask firmly in place. But as Michael drove to Mark's, his mind kept drifting back to that moment in front of the mirror, that tantalizing glimpse of another self. A truer self, perhaps. He white-knuckled the steering wheel. This was crazy. Cross-dressing was for drag queens and perverts, not regular guys like him, right? By the time he got to poker night, Michael had pushed the disturbing thoughts away. He bro-hugged Mark, cracked a beer, and focused on the game. Just like always. But alone in bed that night, the yearning returned. Seared into his mind was the image of himself in that dress. He squeezed his eyes shut, trying to block it out. It was wrong. Shameful. He was a man. He had to be a man. Except ... it hadn't felt wrong. It had felt like coming home. The next few weeks, Michael threw himself into work and working out. He went for promotions, lifted heavier weights, watched more sports. Performed masculinity like his life depended on it. But that only made the ache of yearning sharper. Every night, he'd stare at his closet, fighting the urge to pull out that cardboard box, resisting the siren song of silk against his skin. And every night, he lost the battle. As soon as he got home from work, Michael would lock the door, draw the blinds, and pull out a dress, a skirt, a blouse. He'd spend hours in front of the mirror, admiring his feminine silhouette, swishing back and forth, loving the way the fabrics draped and moved. On his lunch breaks, he'd furtively scroll through online boutiques on his phone, building a secret wish list. Dresses and heels, bras and panties. The lace, the satin, the floral prints called to him. Items he could never let himself buy. Until one day, fingers shaking. He did. The first time he opened a package with his name on it, his own clothing nestled in tissue paper inside, Michael almost wept with relief. No more stolen moments with an ex's forgotten cast-offs. These were his. Wrapping them around his body felt like being embraced, accepted, validated. He told himself it was enough, this hidden indulgence, that he could spend his days as Michael and his nights as someone else, someone soft, someone pretty, someone real. Until the night Amanda posted on Facebook about her upcoming wedding. Her bridal shower registry was full of kitchen gadgets and linens, and a makeup lesson gift certificate. Michael stared at the registry for a long time, an idea taking shape. He could get her a gift card, say it was for the honeymoon, and if he also bought himself some foundation, some lipstick, some eyeshadow, well, no one needed to know. It could be his secret. And so, heart in his throat, he placed the order. When the Sephora box arrived, he stashed it under the bed. And there it sat, intimidating and alluring, for nearly a week, because makeup meant something different than dresses. Dresses he could explain away, a prank, a dare, a costume. But makeup was deliberate, transformative, terrifying. Finally, on a rainy Tuesday night, he worked up the nerve. He set the eyeshadow palettes and brushes out on the bathroom counter with shaking hands, pulled up a YouTube tutorial on his phone. The beauty guru on the tiny screen was so confident, so artful as she blended and highlighted. He took a deep breath and picked up a brush. An hour later, he stared at his reflection in wonder. His bone structure looked softer, sculpted. Smoky shadow made his eyes pop. Dark lashes fluttered as he blinked. His lips were tinted a soft pink. He looked pretty. He felt pretty too. The knot in his chest that had been there for weeks, maybe years, finally dissolved. Tears streaked the carefully applied makeup. But for once, they were tears of joy. Michael twirled in front of the mirror, his skirts and hair swishing around him. His nail-polished fingers traced his own cheekbones in awe. This was the realer version of himself, the self he'd pushed down and denied for so long. He didn't have the words for what he was feeling. He just knew, with sudden, absolute certainty, that he could never go back to black and white masculinity. He needed to live in color now, in pinks, purples, and floral prints. Michael, no longer just Michael, smiled at the mirror. There would be hard conversations ahead, confusing and scary ones, with family, friends, coworkers. He'd need to find his label. Trans woman, non-binary, gender fluid. But that was for tomorrow. Tonight, he had all he needed. Himself, a soft dress, and a future as open and shimmering as the colors of the eyeshadow that adorned his lids. He had never felt so alive. Weeks went. Michael now called herself Michaela. She stood in front of the mirror, applying the final touches to her makeup. The smoky eyeshadow made her green eyes pop, and the pink lip gloss gave her a soft, feminine look. She adjusted the straps of her sundress, enjoying the feel of the silky fabric against her skin. It had been a month since she'd first experimented with her ex-girlfriend's left-behind clothes and makeup. A month of secret dress-up sessions and online shopping sprees. A month of grappling with the realization that she wasn't the man she'd always thought herself to be. She took a deep breath and grabbed her purse. Today was the day she'd finally venture out in public as her true self. Just a quick trip to the grocery store, nothing major. but it felt momentous, like Neil Armstrong stepping onto the moon. Michaela had carefully chosen an outfit that was feminine, but not too flashy. A knee-length floral dress, a denim jacket and low heels, subtle makeup, a swipe of mascara and lip gloss. She wanted to blend in, not attract stares. Her heart raced as she locked her apartment door behind her. Each step down the hallway felt like wading through molasses. She half expected one of her neighbors to pop out and point at her, screaming, "Faker! Fraud!" But no one did. The elevator ride down to the lobby was uneventful. The doorman nodded at her, absently, eyes glued to his phone. Michaela hurried past, feeling like she'd dodged a bullet. Outside, the spring air was balmy and blossom-scented. Michaela walked down the block, concentrating on not wobbling in her heels. The few people she passed barely spared her a glance. Just another woman running errands. Nothing to see here. With each step, Michaela's confidence grew. She started to relax, to enjoy the sensation of her skirt swishing around her legs. The click-clack of her heels on the sidewalk sounded musical. For the first time in her life, her outside matched her inside. She felt whole. At the grocery store, Michaela grabbed a cart and began to navigate the aisles. She took her time, relishing the normalcy of it all. Just another housewife picking up ingredients for dinner. Never mind that dinner would be microwave leftovers eaten alone in front of the TV. As she examined the avocados for ripeness, Michaela felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to see an elderly woman smiling at her. "Excuse me, dear. Could you help me reach that can of soup up there? I'm afraid I'm not as tall as I used to be." "Of course," Michaela said, surprised at how natural her voice sounded, an octave higher than usual. She stretched up and grabbed the can, placing it in the woman's cart. "Thank you so much, sweetie."
I appreciate it.
The woman patted Michaela's arm before trundling off towards the checkout. Michaela stood frozen for a moment, arm tingling where the woman had touched her. She had interacted with her as a woman, not as a man in a dress, but as a fellow member of the sisterhood. Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes. She finished her shopping in a daze, barely noticing what she tossed in the cart. The cashier rang her up without a second glance, and Michaela floated out of the store on a cloud of gender euphoria. On the walk home, Michaela couldn't stop smiling. She had done it, faced her fears, presented as her true self, and the world hadn't ended. If anything, it had become more vivid, more real. Back in her apartment, Michaela twirled in front of the mirror, shopping bags abandoned on the floor. She felt giddy, invincible, like she could conquer anything. Over the next few weeks, Michaela got braver. She wore dresses and heels to get the mail, to take out the trash. She ventured out to the local park, enjoying the sunshine on her bare legs. No one gave her a second glance. She started incorporating more feminine touches into her everyday male wardrobe too. A pink Oxford shirt instead of a plain white tee. Skinny jeans that hugged her curves. Clear lip gloss and mascara became part of her morning routine. At work, Michaela began to cultivate a more androgynous look. She let her hair grow out a bit, softening her jawline, traded her boxy suits for slim-cut slacks and colorful button-ups. If her coworkers noticed the changes, they didn't comment. But Michaela knew she couldn't keep living a double life forever. The more she embraced her femininity, the harder it became to stuff herself back into the ill-fitting box of masculinity. She longed to be Michaela full-time, not just in stolen moments. The tipping point came on a Friday night. Michaela had plans to meet up with some college buddies to watch the game and grab drinks. The kind of guys' night she'd attended countless times. But as she stood in front of her closet, the idea of putting on her bro costume The baggy jeans, the jersey, the backwards baseball cap filled her with dread. She ran her hand over the dresses hanging in her closet, fingers lingering on the green sundress she'd worn on that first excursion. It whispered to her, promising comfort, authenticity, freedom. Before she could second-guess herself, Michaela grabbed the dress off the hanger. She shimmied into it, enjoying the familiar caress of silk on her skin. A dab of lip gloss, a brush of eyeshadow, and she was ready. She stared at herself in the mirror, taking in the full effect. The dress, the makeup, the heels. They weren't a costume anymore. They were her armor, her war paint. Michaela grabbed her purse and headed out the door. No more hiding, no more pretending. It was time to introduce her true self to the world. The bar was crowded and noisy, the clack of pool balls mingling with the blast of sports commentary from the wall-mounted TVs. Michaela scanned the room, heart pounding. She spotted her friends clustered around a high-top table, nursing beers and laughing. She took a deep breath and approached them. Mark saw her first, brow furrowing as he tried to place her face. Then, recognition dawned, chased by shock. "Michael? Is that you?" The table fell silent as the others turned to stare. Michaela forced a smile, hoping it didn't look as wobbly as it felt. "Actually, it's Michaela now. I've got something to tell you guys." Over the next hour, Michaela poured her heart out to her flabbergasted friends. She told them about the dresses, the makeup, the bone-deep certainty that she wasn't meant to be a man, that she was transgender. There were tears and confusion, awkward questions, and misgendering. But to their credit, her friends tried to understand. They stumbled over pronouns and swapped baffled looks, but they listened. They hugged Michaela and promised they'd be there for her, no matter what. As the night wore on and the alcohol flowed, the conversation turned lighter. Her friends began to pepper Michaela with questions about her transition plans, her new name, her style. They complimented her dress, asked for makeup tips, demanded a shopping trip to update her wardrobe. By last call, Michaela felt wrung out, but elated. Coming out to her inner circle had been terrifying, but also cathartic. A weight she hadn't even known she was carrying had been lifted from her shoulders. She knew there were more challenges ahead, more difficult conversations with family, with HR at work, a long and winding road of hormones and electrolysis and legal name changes. But for now, surrounded by love and acceptance, Michaela felt ready to face it all. As she tottered out of the bar in her heels, Mark threw an arm around her shoulders. "I'm proud of you, Michaela." Michaela leaned into the half-hug, tears stinging her eyes. "Thanks, Mark. That means a lot." The cool night air kissed her bare arms as they stood on the sidewalk, waiting for their Ubers. Michaela tilted her head back, breathing in the scent of car exhaust and stale beer. The stars twinkled overhead, distant but constant. She had spent so many years staring up at those same stars, yearning for something she couldn't name. An end to the restlessness, the sense that she was living the wrong life. Now, she finally understood. She wasn't searching for a destination. She was searching for herself. And tonight, in a crowded bar, wearing a floral dress and a mile of mascara, Michaela had finally found her. The road ahead might be bumpy. There would be potholes of transphobia and detours of self-doubt. But Michaela was in the driver's seat now, steering towards a future that shimmered with possibilities. As she climbed into the waiting car, Michaela caught a glimpse of her reflection in the window. Glitter-shadowed eyes, bow lips curved in a secret smile. The face of a woman at the beginning of her own incredible journey. She settled back against the seats and closed her eyes, already dreaming of tomorrow's adventures. Dresses to twirl in, heels to conquer. a closet to fill with riotous colors and joyful prints, but most of all, a life to claim as her own, an identity to inhabit fully, unapologetically, radiantly. Michaela was coming home to herself, and she couldn't wait to see what wonders awaited her there,